sets down his wheelbarrow and looks back at Learmont. "Can you tell me where to find the main house? The entrance?" The old man gestures with his free hand. "Over there." Then, taking up the handle of his wheelbarrow once more, he shuffles past the trap towards the orchard. Learmont listens as his footsteps die away. Eventually he turns to Mr. Dean and says, "Silent as a tomb." Mr. Dean shrugs. Dr. Learmont climbs down onto the gravel, shakes his legs, and looks around. The old man seemed to be pointing beyond the overspilling garden wall. This, too, has a small doorway in it. "Why don't you wait here?" Learmont suggests to Mr. Dean. "I'll go and find—" He holds his yellow paper up and scrutinizes it again. "This Mr. Carfax." Mr. Dean nods. Dr. Learmont takes his case and inhaler, steps onto a strip of grass, and crosses a small wooden bridge above the moat-like stream. Then, lowering his head beneath wisteria that managed to brush it nonetheless, he walks through the doorway. Inside the garden,
as though works of art of necessity survive, whereas in fact they often don't. A fire here, some damp infiltrating a wall there, the random falling of a bomb, pure neglect. "See the manner in which Von Opt framed the view of the castle," he said, and then fell silent, embarrassed by his lack of tact. "I remember exactly," she reassured him. And it was true. She could recall exactly how it was. The space between the main house and the servants' apartment, Lanik's apartment, framing the hill on the far side of the city. "The future frames the past," Reiner had said. She could see it in the only eye she possessed now, her mind's eye, so much a cliché but so vividly a fact, all of it projected within the intricate jelly of her brain to give her an image that was almost as real as seeing. The wooded hill, the Spieler's fortress, and the cathedral with its hunched shoulders and its black spires, exactly, Reiner said, like hypodermic needles. She walked on. The bulk of the house cut out the light around her as she came nearer. There was a freestanding pillar at that point,
the clinker in the fireplace, a brutal little fireplace. This had been a room for a servant once, gently collapsed. Kay took a final draw on her cigarette, then pinched out the flame of it between her forefinger and thumb. She had been standing at her window for more than an hour. It was a Tuesday. She'd seen a snub-nosed man with a wasted arm arrive, and had been waiting in a vague kind of way for the Stanley Spencer couple. But now she decided to give up on them. She'd decided to go out. The day was fine, after all, a day in the middle of a warm September, the 3rd September after the war. She went through to the room next to this one, that she used as a bedroom, and began to get changed. The room was dim. Some of the window glass had been lost, and Mr. Leonard had replaced it with lino. The bed was high, with a balding candlewick bedspread, the sort of bed which turned your thoughts, not pleasantly, to the many people who must over the years have slept on it, made love on it, been born on it, died on it, thrashed around on it in fevers.
"In the wood? They're out looking for you. We thought you was struck down by a falling. Oh, but you're home." Autumn. Abigail started neatly at a walk as her mother had just smartened her, plucking and smoothing her dress into place. She had run a fingertip down Abigail's nose as she bent down with a crackle of her own dress and repeated the message to Carey. But outside the door, and with the sun warm through the trees and the path firm under her tightly laced boots, Abigail couldn't help it. After a few paces, she broke into a run. She ran across the garden and over into the grounds of Fairmead House, then along its side and past the pond where Simon the Idiot was throwing stones. Even she knew he'd been told not to do that. He looked round sharply at the sound of her footsteps just after he'd launched one. It couldn't be stopped. Their eyes met at the moment it plopped in, and slow circles widened across the green water. It was only the child, though. He smiled naughtily at her, knowing she wouldn't tell. She ran round the corner past Mr. Stockdale, the attendant whom she did not like.
Ashed Audio presents Room, written by Emma Donoghue. Read by Michael Friedman, Ellen Archer, Suzanne Torin, and Robert Petkoff.
Room is for Finn and Una, my best works. Presents.
Today I'm 5. I was 4 last night going to sleep in wardrobe, but when I wake up in bed in the dark, I'm changed to 5. Abracadabra. Before that...
Of course, if we are to approach my home this way, we must be prepared to push my uncle's hobby across fallen branches through the spinneys. It is almost useless in the rough ground of the woods, where I and the Abbé de Lalande, my beloved bébé, shot so many hundreds of larks and sparrows that I bruised my little shoulder blue. Careful, Olivier dear. Do be careful. We can ignore nose bleeding for the time being. Although, to be realistic, the blood can be anticipated soon enough. Spectacular spurts, splendid gushes, my body being always too thin-walled a container for the passions coursing through its veins. But as we are making up our adventure, let us assume there is no blood, no compresses, no leeches, no wild gallops to drag the doctor from his breakfast. And so we readers can leave the silky, treacherous Seine and cross the rough woodlands and enter the path between the linden trees.
Shame was left out when God made my dad. After Kat had finished swabbing him, he lay up for an hour or two. During this time, Walter came to the door with some of his acquaintance, and there was a certain amount of shouting and kicking of doors. The question in his mind now is, what am I going to do? I can't stay in Putney. Partly this is because his memory is coming back, for the day before yesterday and the earlier fight, and he thinks there might have been a knife in it somewhere, and whoever it was stuck in, it wasn't him. So was it by him? All this is unclear in his mind. What is clear is his thought about Walter. I've had enough of this. If he gets after me again, I'm going to kill him, and if I kill him, they'll hang me, and if they're going to hang me, I want a better reason. He comes downstairs. Morgan says cheerily, "You're looking well, considering." The truth is about Morgan Williams, and he doesn't like him any the less for it. The truth is, this idea he has that he'll beat up his father-in-law, it's solely...
The Finkler Question, by Howard Jacobson. Narrated by Stephen Crossley.
Part 1. Chapter 1. 1. He should have seen it coming. His life had been one mishap after another, so he should have been prepared for this one. He was a man who saw things coming. Not shadowy premonitions before and after sleep, but real and present dangers in the daylit world. Lamp-posts and trees reared up at him, splintering his shins. Speeding cars lost control and rode onto the footpath, leaving him lying in a pile of torn tissue and mangled bones. Sharp objects dropped from scaffolding and pierced his skull. Women, worst of all. When a woman of the sort Julian Treslov found beautiful crossed his path, it wasn't his body that took the force, but his mind. She shattered his calm.